Millennium.
Alright, let's get through, or thumb through some card sets today. So I've got some new card sets in from, of course, eBay, because there's no way to get them here. And it is probably one of my favourite sets that have been out recently. It's the old Rogue One, and I've got Rogue 2. So Rogue 1, Rogue 2. Rogue 1, the Series 1, and Rogue 1, Series 2. So we'll flip through these. Now what I like the most about these, there's nothing on the back really of these, which, yeah, not too bad, because I mean, what do you need, a story or something on the back? You don't really need to be sitting around, you just look at the pictures. So what I really like about these cards is their design. I mean, it's a really fantastic base colour. I mean, I really like that sandy kind of look to it, or granite type of stone colouring to it. Very nice silver lettering, and of course the pictures that they've used are just stunning in terms of the coloration of them. They've got a bit of a vignetting type look around the edges of the cards, which is also pretty cool. But I mean, I really like them. They're probably one of the best, most well designed set of cards that have come out recently. As you all know, I don't particularly enjoy the old style card stock, which they put new sets out, and I can understand for the 1980s and 70s sets, but come on, just redoing that for what reason? Oh, it's for the it's for remembering when you were young and you had these things. Oh, it's not for cost saving, but you still crank up the price. But anyway, fantastic cards. Real, I mean, look at that. Very nice shot. Interesting thing about this set compared to the Series 2 set is that you have portraits in here, which is this way around. The Series 2 is virtually 99% landscape shots, which I don't quite understand. And to be fairly honest, out of both of the sets, the Series 1 set is my favourite out of both of them. It's just got a lot more interesting shots in it. And weight, looking good. And in terms of the movie, there's been a bit of, not really controversy, but there's been a bit of a divide in the Star Wars community as to people's opinions of the movie. Personally, I really enjoyed it. The first time I thought, oh, ho hum. I've watched it now probably 5 times, and I really enjoy it. In fact, some of my favourite, well, one of my favourite Star Wars characters is now in Rogue One, and that's Director Krennic. I really enjoy Director Krennic. And they've also got some excellent new stormtroopers like the Tank Commander and the Beachcombers, whatever they are. Shore Trooper, of course, here's one here. Cool design, very cool design. And in terms of the characters of Rogue One, Jyn Erso, and our trio of rebels. There's old Jyn there, rebel hero, and of course, what's his face? It'll come to me. And of course, the robot guy. So these are the these are the characters that you remember, of course, because you remember their names. Not so much interesting characters as, for example, Director Krennic, even Galen Erso. is a far more interesting character. It seems, and here we go, Imwe's really interesting character, and his supporting, I like to call these guys the box heads, and the guy that supports him, and I'll get to these characters when I remember their names, but they're far more interesting characters than the actual main characters, which I find unusual. I mean, you really want to know the story of the other characters and how they got there, but you're not really interested in Jin, and you're not really interested in the robot, because the robot's just there for some reason. It's supposed to be there for comic relief, but it's a bit flat on that, because the level of comedy is not quite up to C-3PO and R2-D2. Stormtroopers are back. Of course, they look absolutely fantastic. There are obviously a few differences between the original trilogy, but they certainly stand out, and they certainly look really good. And here's our mate Jin gearing up. Last section of Rogue One Series 1. No idea who that is. Mothma, as she's affectionately known by me. The Rebellion United. How lovely. Here the troopers going off, get killed on the beach. Baze, that's the other character, which is really interesting and really cool. Cassian, that's the one. Oh, Cassian. He's an okay character, but nothing exciting. These guys are pretty cool. Why did they not speak in English? That's the question I want to put forward. Why was their voice all scattered? Was it because they're Special Forces troopers? Or is it because they are not human? Now, I haven't looked into the lore of all this, but it is something interesting to think about. Yes, and here's Krennic in all his glory. I can't remember the artist, but someone said an absolutely fantastic sketch card of Krennic, and I believe it may have been in the Rogue One sets. Yeah, it would have been, because there's huge controversy around the 40th anniversary sets in terms of the content, the autographs, and the sketch cards, which is probably the worst part of the 40th anniversary series of Star Wars cards. Just adjust myself here a bit. Right, jumping on to Series 2. All of these are now in landscape. Quite puzzling to me, really, but okay. Oh, and of course what is different is we have a little story. Here's a little story on the back, so you can all enjoy the story when you look through the cards and read about it. See if I can get a better focus. Resisting the Empire. Saw an orange card of that. Can't remember how much it went for. Not as expensive as I thought it would go for. The Hunt for Jin. Of course, you can get blues, greens, blacks, greys, and golds, and oranges. Variants of these cards. Oranges are one-on-ones, so look out for those if you can get a snap one up for cheap. The unfortunate thing about this set is that it's not as interesting, in my opinion, as the previous set. The shots are not as interesting. I mean, here's a classic example. Bodhi's gruesome test, and the shot shows basically nothing. Just a random shot. There's nothing really happening here, just a battle, but there's nothing in focus. There's nothing, it's a wide shot. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Most of these are just wide shots. And wide shots tend to be slightly less interesting than tight shots, because there's a lot of nothing happening in there. As you can see here, there's a lot of nothing. There's the focus shot in the middle, nothing happens. Two shots of almost the same thing. Bit of an explosion. You can get away with wide shots when you're in space, and we'll see that coming up. But I mean, what's this? Narrow escape. There's just nothing in that shot at all. Nothing at all. So whoever selected the shots for this, these must have all been the B-reel that hit the floor on the first set. Still, nonetheless, they were right to have, because you got a story. Okay, look at that. I mean, seriously, what is in the picture? Nothing. Could have been tightened up on that. You could have had a tight shot come in about there and there. It would have been a good card. There are two fantastic cards in here. Well, one alright card, and absolutely the best card's the last card. And I'll show you that when we get to the last card. The council assembled. Oh, how exciting. Look at this exciting discussion about should we go in or not? What would the political ramifications be? Who knows? So they go and do it anyway. More wide shots, more wide shots. But anyway, yes, the 40th came out, and there's been such disappointment all over the Facebook Topps card page about the sketch cards that are in there and the quality of the autographs, but specifically the sketch cards, and I totally agree with the people. There are a whole lot of false positive people around at the moment supporting mediocrity, and I'm absolutely disgusted with it, really. When you support mediocrity, you get mediocrity as the standard, and that's what's starting to happen with Topps. They're actually cranking out sketch cards which you would not even expect from your child, and that's including these in the sets. And people are saying, well, art is in the eye of the beholder, there's a quality. Well, it's not. This is in the basic principles of economics. You expend money, you expect to get some kind of return on it, and to have a child's sketch or a likeness of a child's sketch in your $140 box or $1,000 case, that's just disgusting. And I'm absolutely disgusted with Topps, to be honest. They could actually slip that through. When you look at the other sets like Lord of the Rings, they have absolutely pristine, brilliantly beautiful artwork, and you pay for that artwork, and when you dish out that money and you get that artwork, you're absolutely satisfied. When you get a child's sketch, you're disgusted, and I totally agree. And maybe I'll slip a sketch in here so you can see what I'm talking about. But here we go, the Rebel Fleet. This is where you get away with wide shots because something's happening. You've got a whole lot of different colours happening in there. Oh, what's his name? Radish. Admiral Radish, as he is affectionately known. Here's another interesting looking wide shot. There's something happening in there. These little ships flying around. Close in. Headshot. Nice. Fairly decent wide looking shot. Another humanitarian shot. Another wide shot, not so much anything happening. Another wide shot. I don't particularly understand who would have selected this, because the foreground fighter is out of focus, but the background fighter is in focus. I know it's in the center of the picture, but very interesting selection. Why that would be in there set, I'm not sure. Because the destruction of the act. Good grief. Semi-interesting picture. Good grief. This is where they go in to get the special thing, which we're not going to talk about because somebody may not have seen the movie. Of course, we've got to protect them from the ending. Here's all the ties coming out, but of course once you're looking through the cards, you're basically watching the movie. Here's something happening, here's something else happening. Last lot. Shooting. Getting the telephone cable. looking at stuff flying around, hanging out at the beach, shooting stuff, falling over things. Oh, we're supposed to be climbing, sorry. Falling over things now. Shooting at things. Looking down and shooting at things. Looking around even though I can't see. Space battle. Shooting my gun. Crashing into something. This was a very interesting scene. Wonder what happened to these guys. Wonder if they got dragged down with the Star Destroyer and they were all killed. Possibly that what happened. So this slices off the top of that. I'm not actually sure how that works because surely, or how, I'm just wondering how the other Star Destroyer kept its gravitational position once this actually collided with it. Wouldn't it not push it rather than actually slice the top of it? But I'm no genius. I'm no doctor of rocket science. This is where something happens and some other thing happens and then something else does. And here we go, here's the Star Destroyer, it's just falling down through the shield. And here comes, oh, the Death Star. Really interesting shot there, pretty cool. And they go, hey, let's just blow up everything, and they die. Oh, I'm sorry, I destroyed it for you. Interesting card. The last card is the best card. That's a fantastic card. Beautiful shot. Get that in a gold card. Perfect. So there we have it. There's Rogue One Series 1 and Rogue One Series 2 cards. I'll be back with some more Star Wars cards shortly.